Morning, everyone. Before I start, is it okay if I speak, which language do you prefer I speak? Creole? Mon continue en créole ou bien moi en anglais? Oh, so I'm going English, yeah, right? Okay, good. Thank you. A very good morning to everybody. Thank you for making the time for this meeting this morning. As you know, we went through a process of tender RFP last year, and the evaluation was done late and early this year. Conclusion was because there were some delays on a lot of items which were a bit in the murky, you know, a bit gray. So we decided to relaunch because after several months, you know, the RFP also states that you cannot keep a bid forever open. So we had to cancel and re-tender the bid for Zone D. Why? Because Zone D is very important for the vision of the waterfront, and I think it will be the zone that's going to contribute massively to the embellishment, or let's say Victoria coming to going to another level, because we do have a waterfront, but it's not used at the moment for the purpose of that we've seen waterfronts are developed elsewhere around the world. So the purpose of this meeting is the pre-bid meeting for the retender. We had 4 bidders, shortlisted bidders from the last RFP. So we have the same for shortlisted bidders. You have all collected your RFP document before the deadline. So you are all here today present. Everyone is in the room. So the submission, if it's from 4 people, from 4 bodies, it will be evaluated based on the 4 submissions that we received. Before I proceed as well, I would like to inform you that we've reconstituted the committee, the evaluation committee, because the one that was previously working on the Victoria front have previous knowledge of your tenders. So obviously we need a fresh pair of eyes, and it's fair to you that if we're retendering, we have new people evaluating the new tender. On the day of the opening, the chairman will be there to take over the bids for evaluation on the same day. Okay, so we will start with introducing, obviously, the area in the zone. I think you're all familiar with. It is the zone which is now, there's no space currently now. It's going to be created because there's a reclamation aspect to it. It's supposed to be around 17,000 square meters. Where's Bernard? He's here? Okay. We have our planning person with us, and if you have any technical questions later on, he will clarify that. Specification for that plot, obviously a lease of 60 years. I know there's been requests for a more extended list. This is something that can be addressed during the, let's say, a negotiation of the offer from the Ministry of Lands. But we didn't want to change any aspect of specification on the retender because we feel that it would just confuse and create a lot of let's say, critics, because if it's changed this way, it means that it's a new tender altogether, and we will have to open it up to others. Okay, the partnerships or individual or companies, it could participate. It could be either still open to Seychewa and non-Seychewa, again for commercial activities and encouraging Creole architecture. The development grace period is 36 months because taking consideration the reclamation also, and the covenant as well is 36 months. There was query as well on that, and again for the same reasons that I've addressed the first one regarding a lease. It's the same reason why we've left it as it is. Density is 60%. In the plot, like I said, was 70. This is an error. It's 17,000 square meters. So in the yearly list, it's 2 million. It's 100 and, I don't know how much it is exactly square meter. Was it 130? Can't remember square meter. But again, this kind of, if you want to relook at the yearly list, this is negotiation. Like I said, that can be done at the offer stage if you are awarded. Permitted physical development is ground +2 plus attic. It's the same for all the zones. That hasn't changed. The plot information, what we're expected to see there, obviously these are examples. It doesn't mean that you have to stick to that, or it doesn't mean that it should be limited to these activities. It's just giving you an idea what is expected to be seen, activities which are actually conforming to a marina boardwalk marina life, daytime and nighttime. We have an example at Eden Island, which you can relate to, but we want to see other things that is unique as well to that zone, which you can add to and bring a kind of uniqueness to the Seychelles way of a marina, for example, and activities which will bring in crowds, would make people roam around or be there in that space for more than 1 hour. Activities which are relaxing, which is entertaining, and which, you know, is every one of us would like to be there when we have a free time or we want to have a pleasant experience, for example. So these are a bit of pictures. The boardwalk, obviously, a green zone. I think there is a specificity for a green zone in the middle. And then obviously with cafes, bars, and such likes, even a nightclub and hotel. There's a 30-bedroom hotel included in there, which should be developed. And pontoon for if there is any vessels that would need to come closer in. Not big vessels, obviously, because the specification for that area is not that big. I think planning can give some idea on this later on. Okay, tender procedures, we launched it on the 16th. I do apologize for the delay. The reason is because we said we were going to go out in June, but obviously we were a bit taken. I was not in country for 2 weeks, and then we had the anniversary of SIB, which took a bit of our resources. So here we are now, and we've yesterday closed the collection of tender, and today we're doing the pre-bid meeting. Like I've said previously, the deadline for submission is before 10 a.m. on the 26th of August. As soon as the deadline hits, like 10 o'clock, 10:01, we will open the tenders. And all tenders will be verified for minimum requirements. Those who do not meet the minimum requirements will be disqualified automatically, because no tender is going to come to SIB. It's going to go straight to the evaluation committee on the same day. So the chair would be there. As soon as the tender board opens, read out the requirements that's included, they would hand over the envelope to the chairman of the committee for assessment in the afternoon. Documents to be submitted. The reason why you might ask, oh, SIB has some of these documents. Why are they asking us again? Why we're doing that is because your documents that you submit on the day is not coming back to SIB. We are not going to check, oh, they should have had the certificate of memorandum. We had that in the last, let's put it in. No, we are not going to have no access with your envelope. Your envelope is open on the day. It's given to the chair of the committee. He goes straight with his team into evaluation. SIB has no sight of your document unless the evaluation committee permits us to have sight of your document. They do their evaluation, all right, obviously, and then once they've completed the evaluation, they come to us with the results. So that's why you have to resubmit. You have to bear with us. So you have to resubmit all your documents, even those that you might think that we have yet. If it's the same thing, it's the same project, you will have to resubmit those documents. What is important for you to also take note is that we need proof of financial ability. When we say proof of financial ability, it's very well described in the RFP, what we mean by that. You know, you can raise capital, maybe, I mean, the basic ones, you can raise capital two ways for development. One is by raising debt, okay, by getting a loan, and the other one is obviously by getting an investor. It's sharing shares or somebody who's prepared to sponsor you or give you a grant for that development. But you have to demonstrate where the finances are coming from. If it's an investor, you have to provide us with details of the investor and the proof that they are able to provide you with that investment. If you're getting a loan or you're raising debt from somewhere, you have to provide that proof of that debt. If you're getting a loan from the bank doesn't necessarily have to say they are going to give you the loan, but the bank has to say, based on what you've submitted to them, if you meet the credit terms, they are convinced they can support this project financially for the amount that you're going to develop this project. So that's how you provide the financial ability. The other documents is obviously there are information which is required in the RFP itself, which you need to complete and provide. But also I know around the concept and the vision and what you want to achieve can be done in a business case. So you have to provide us with that business case. The evaluation committee does read the business case because they don't know you. So the way that they can know your project is by going through your business case and understanding what you're trying to project here, what you're trying to achieve here. So it's important that you provide as much information as possible in your business case, and you support those with your financial costs, your recurrent, your revenue estimates, your projections, your sources of capital and cost, and obviously your return on the investment and what you're expected as return. If you're going to partner with somebody or you're doing the development yourself and you're going to operate it yourself, you've got to specify that, right? If you're going to develop it, but then lease it out to somebody to operate it, you've got to specify that as well and provide information about that. So that is very clear to the evaluation committee, what is it exactly, and who is government going to be dealing with in the future. It is also important that you provide a schematic diagram. I think for the reclamation, it is more important also to see how you're going to achieve that reclamation, how you're going to do it, and the techniques you're going to use, and to understand, match it with the cost implication that this is going to have for you. Going on to the stage of the evaluation now, the points have not changed. It remains the same. So you won't see any new, let's say, system of points here. It's still the same thing. What has changed is no financial bid is being taken into consideration. So you have 7 criteria, which is from the, which is the marginal reference, which is Seychelles or non-Seychelles. And then the experience capacity, optimal use, environmental considerations, socioeconomic contributions, financial details. I mean, how realistic is your project with regards to what you were saying, and then attractiveness of the project. The points are on 100. Now, it's who has the most points that gets the project. So based on the evaluation, if we have one that gets 95, 196, 197, 198, obviously the one that gets 98 win the bid, right? So that's it from me. Question and answer time now.
I'll go first. Hi, Chantil Aldenji. I'm representing Studio 21.
Yeah.
And I have been required to make the following statements and ask the following questions. We have on a couple of occasions attended similar meetings relating to Zone D and other adjoining plots that were put on tender. In the last instance, we decided to tender solely for Zone D. We submitted our bid in a timely manner according to the rules. We have, for some time, patiently and diligently waited for the outcome. It is our understanding that all the other plots adjoining Zone D have already been bid for, and bids of these plots have been selected, allocated, and accepted. Since then, we have been advised that Zone D has been put back out on tender. We have even noticed that the ideas and concepts from our most recent bid has been incorporated into the present proposal. For example, the addition of the 30-room hotel. Our underlying understanding and perception is that this was to somehow allow for additional, maybe even a preferred bidder to be allowed to come in, which we state is not fair and begs many questions. The main question is, why wasn't the bid allocated just like the other zones, where after the last submission? What are the real underlying reasons for allowing a new bidder to come into this process at such a late stage? And is this fair and in line with the tender process and rules, and why has this been allowed to happen? Please provide a clear and official statement on this matter, and in doing so, clearly state who is the additional and new bidders, and who are the principals, and how come they have been allowed to slot themselves in at such a late stage. Is this correct, fair, and in according to the tender rules?
I can say there are no additional bidders because we've said the shortlisted bidders from the first RFP, these were the ones that were, they were assessed, and the retender is being done to the shortlisted bidders. There are no new bidders in this process. The retender has not been open to anybody else aside the people who were shortlisted from the previous RFP. On your question of other zones, Zone B, we've just retendered this morning. Zone A, we're going to retender. Zone E, we're going to retender. And Zone D, we're retendering. So the only zone that has been allocated, awarded, but it's not being finalized as yet because the offer hasn't gone out, is Zone C, which is for where the Libra is, which is in the middle where the watermark is. The reason why we decided to retender Zone D, like I explained when we started, is that there were some gray areas on the Zone D, questions of back and forth with the bidders. None of the bidders meet the minimum requirement. It took the evaluation committee some time because there were several zones being evaluated to finalize Zone D. And by the time we said this has gone far too long, so it is best to retender to the shortlisted and let's start afresh with them so that the concept and everything is clearly clarified and the way forward. So these are the reasons why. If you know of anybody who you think is new, I would appreciate if you point it out in the room because it is the four of you who is here. Thank you.
As requested, as
It
point
will-
9, if we could have it as an official
It will
statement
be,
from...
because the questions and answers are being recorded. I do apologize. I didn't clarify that at the start. We're recording everything, audio and visual. As is the normal procedure, after the pre-tender meeting, we issue out questions and answers. So all questions that have been asked in the room, we provide the answers that we've provided in the room, but also if there is any further clarification that needs to be added. So we provide that. Normally, that's the procedure. Thank you. Any other questions? We've gone through this process for it's going into 2 years now, I think. This June is 1 year. I think I've gone through it for 2 years because that's why I'm saying 2 years. We started with the proposal way back in 2021, which then went, 2022, which went into pre-planning phase for like a year. And then it's when we started putting out the expression of interest. I think it was around 12 June last year, if I'm not mistaken. So we've already gone through a year. So there's been a lot of information that's been imparted during that period. There's been a lot of meetings. But I think now is the stage where we would like to close the tenders before the end of the year. Like I say, the submission is the 26th before 10 a.m. If you cannot make it to the tender, be physically present, you can be represented. It would be good that you send us, like we've said in the RFP, send us out something in writing to tell us who will be presenting you, because it is important that we know who, just to avoid questions like a new person or whatever is bidding. Okay.
Hello. Yes. We are representing UCPS. So this is regarding some specified development requirements for that proposal. So the reclamation height mentioned is 1.5 meters above sea level. So, so we have some...
You have some issues with that?
Sorry?
You have some issues with that?
Not issues, like, we have some recent problems regarding that, like Yacht Club, it has been entering the water. So I don't know, in future, because our calculation will be based on this 1.5 meter reclamation height above the sea level.
Okay.
So is it safe or it will be changed because it's like 170,000 square meter of reclamation. If it is a slight difference, that's a big quantity of reclamation happening.
Yeah, I do agree. Mr. Bell is from planning. Okay, he will provide you some clarification around that.
Good morning. No, I don't have the exact details because it's normally SIA's part that handles these matters. But from what we are doing now, what is bid is what we will go with. So any changes that will come later on, this is something that we'll have to discuss and probably have to discuss with you because we know that you are bidding according to this 1.5 that is mentioned there. Yes. Yeah. So if anything changes, for now we don't know, we don't have anything yet that will change. But if anything changes, we will have to have this this dialogue with whoever wins the bid for that area. Yeah.
This, some of the recent projects is like 2.5 above the sea level.
Yeah.
So, that's a big difference. Like, if you calculate, if you increase 1 meter, that's a big quantity of dredge material.
Yeah.
So that will affect maybe the financial part we have to submit. So that will be increasing our proposal also,
It is something that the department is considering because if you raise the zone D, and then the backside, it is still at the same level, so there will be a problem. So there is investigation right now with the whole of Victoria, not just this waterfront area, but the whole of Victoria, and we will have to make a decision on how will this proceed, if we're going to allow to raise higher, or what is the decisions that needs to be made regarding these kinds of things. So anything that happens post lease, approval of the bids and allocation of the zone D, then there will be a discussion with whoever wins, and then to see if there is need to be changes, how it's going to go along, if it is something that is doable, if it is not doable. But for now, the 1.5 is okay.
Yeah. So you would be assessed based on the specification. You won't be assessed based on. I know for you, an investor, it's important to know what the future, because you're investing for the future, right? So you want to know what kind of investment you're making now, if you're going to make return on it. And if it's going to be, you're going to have returns, and the returns that you want, that's going to be commercially viable for the future. This is one of the questions when it comes to those big projects, that we try as much as possible to have the conversation with the departments concerned, like planning, SIA, and Ministry of Lands, to ensure minimum impact on the investment. But your project will go through the planning process, and your project will not be considered in isolation to the whole of Victoria waterfront, because there's going to be a technical committee that's going to be following you all. You probably, all the ones that are going to be selected are going to be having constant meetings with the technical committee to ensure that the development is going, the development is going according to what fits your purpose. It's a win-win situation for government and for you as well.
It's a different point. Regarding the plot size, you just mentioned there is a typo, 17,200. It's the actual reclamation area?
Yes, 17,000.
So you're going to send us officially that
is
a typo?
We'll send the addendum.
Okay.
Yeah, when we send the questions and answers, we'll put it in there. Okay. Yes.
Morning to you all. My question was regarding the proposals that were submitted, and as I'm aware that everyone did have a chance to have a one-on-one meeting with SIB, and it was also noted in my one-on-one meeting that perhaps there were points that were not come across clearly to the bidders, and regarding the project and regarding the proposals. I'm sure everyone pointed out, and I'm sure everyone proposed something that was viable for them for the waterfront. What I would like to know is there any certain points that we did not consider, or perhaps is it in the new tender proposal that's going to come across, or is there something that we missed out that is different, or was it that you wanted to build it exactly as it's in the pictures that you've shown with different buildings, or is it okay that we're coming up with the new ideas that we're coming up with?
Okay, like I said, this is a retender, okay? I've explained the process, right? We are not going to go back to your document that you submitted. We are not going back into your file to take our documents and bring to the evaluation committee for them to assess. If you want to retender your same document, please go ahead and do that. Retender the same. We are requesting that from you, that cooperation, so that your documents are open at the time that the tenders, all tenders are open, because this new evaluation committee doesn't know your project. They've never seen your project. The only way they can know your project is from the submission that you make. So you submit your documents, the minimum required documents that we've stated, before the time limit on the 26th of August. And on that day, it will be opened and it will pass to the chair of the committee for them to make the assessment. With regards to if there is anything that you missed or that was missing, I would advise there were a lot of information missing from various tenders. And pertinent information, I would advise, I won't speak to specific tender because that's not what we are here for today. But I would advise that you stick to all the requirements that is in the specification. These members of evaluation doesn't know you personally, they haven't had meetings with you, okay? They may request to have an audience with you when they're evaluating, just to know who you are or to know your vision as a person, or I don't know, or to ask you more information about your project. That's their prerogative if they do. It won't come from a request from SIB. It would come from a request from the evaluation committee. But they would evaluate your project, what's in front of them, what they have in front of them as per the indication of the technical assessment questions, if it fits those. Okay, more questions? So yeah.
You know, we went through the both documents, the expression of interest and the RFP it came, you know. So the only difference between those documents is grace period. Now it's 36 months. Before it was 24 months. So this is the only difference we found out from the both documents. Is there any other changes from revision 0 to
Yes,
revision 1?
we've changed the way you submit. You are not submitting by email. Okay. You're submitting physically. And if you cannot submit, you cannot attend the meetings, you cannot be there at the day of the opening, you're missing out. And
a physical copy is a must.
Yes, it is a must. And it is supposed to be submitted through the, in a sealed envelope. The way, in the manner in which it is to be submitted, it's in the RFP. Okay. Okay, so my recommendations, if we don't have any more questions, my recommendations to you is, like I've said, be as much as possible, build your business case as tight as possible, because obviously now we're not looking at a financial bid, so you cannot outbid people by a 30% mark, by a high bid, because it did. That can contribute to giving you more points. You are only being assessed on your technical abilities, your technical aspect of the project. It's over 100 points. Whoever is tighter on the project, that's the person that's gonna, that's the project that's gonna win the bid from the selection committee. And my advice is to be as sharp as possible in, on your documents, and make sure that it covers all bases. And if you have any queries during the time that you are compiling your documents, you can call us. Our liaison officer is Ms. Karen Benstrong, sitting at the back over there. Stand up, Karen, so that they see you. Obviously, you can always email me directly and copy Karen in, or email directly Karen and copy me in. My email address is co@sib.gov.sc. We can answer your queries as we go along. But ensure that you meet the deadline and you submit all your documents, so you stand a chance during the evaluation of having a good assessment of your project. It hasn't changed. It is in consideration for the wider Victoria. Because this is not a decision that has been made now, that it can be said that you're gonna have, you can make allocation for parking internally. There are parkings that are gonna be made available for the services, you know, all the services. Like if you win, you will be a business in that. So you would have to have services parking, right? There is areas being considered for that.
So,
okay?
So each zone will get a parking spot, or all the zones will be parking in
There
zone
will
T?
be a communal parking area, but obviously you will have access to your activity business for services, and there will be timing when you can access these pathways with vehicles. Obviously, you have to service your with loading, unloading, or things like that. So that has been taken care of. There are services routes, and there will be timing for that. And there is consideration for communal parking, where there would be space for that, allocated for that.
Okay.
A bit like Eden Island is. So we have an underneath, it's got an underground parking. There will be a space for parking. And it's got some areas where you can, designated areas. So you will have that. No. It won't be on the zone itself, okay? Like I say, you would have access to your zone for services in time that you can have vehicles going in the pathways that services are going to be. I think there's two ways, no? Around
I'll add a bit on that.
Yes.
So generally, the idea for this area of the waterfront, all the zones, is to have a pedestrian-friendly area. It's not a motorizable section of the waterfront. So the idea is to have independent parking. It's going to be in Victoria. There will be several dedicated zones that will provide parking that will supplement the activities. The only thing that will be allowed vehicular inside these zones, all of the zones, will be for services, as the CEO is saying. So anybody private, there will be off-site parking that will be available for the whole zone. Except for certain activities, for example, this particular zone D, there is option for a boutique hotel, and we know that hotels operate in a certain way, so there will be certain accommodation that we can make for the hotel to be able to function. But otherwise, if you're talking about a nightclub and anything, this can be off-site parking. Okay?
By the way, I forgot to answer your question on the hotel. You mentioned it was not in the previous RFP. It's always been in the RFP, it was in the OE, because it was a requirement that we have a small hotel on the Zone D. So everybody knew about that, even at the expression of interest stage. We had to seek a lot of approval for that.
So the other question is, as we are promoting this, has any thought been given to environment pollution from across the other side of the water?
Oh yes, there was the study that was done, Banano, of the water, the pollution and all the rest.
There is certain works being done by several different entities that is expected to take care of the water quality around the waterfront. So on that side, there is something being done. But of course, these are things that's just a matter of management. So how we manage those activities. But in the end, the idea is for a walkable waterfront that is attractive for both tourists and locals also. Yeah.
It would not just be water, it would be the air quality as well. It is quite pungent at this point in time.
Yeah.
Oh, but it is an area of discussion.
Yeah.
I've been in several of these meetings with regards to how this is going to be tackled going forward. Yes.
There is different phases for the waterfront. This is the first part that we're seeing now that is going on tender. But we are looking at this whole stretch from both ports and what is happening within Victoria. So eventually there will be other things that will come out that will handle majority of those small issues. Yeah.
Just to clarify also, there is a bigger master plan of Victoria, and it's not only from where we are now, I mean the Victoria front, but it goes further down, and it even links into Perseverance and all the rest. So there is phased things happening to sort of remaster a bit.
Yeah, look at Victoria generally. Like you're saying, there are many issues around this area, so hopefully tackle those things in a positive way.
Yeah. Okay, it remains for me to thank you for coming in. I know you all work and have occupations, businesses to run, and taking time in the middle of the day could be a bit, inconvenient, but thank you for making the time. And if you have, like I say, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact us, and we will discuss further. But ensure that you do your submission by the time, on time, with the requirements. Thank you very much.